Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheels Boy Chat, the show where we talk about an interesting topic related to the Chinese car market. My guest, as it so often is the case, is Mr. Mark Andrews. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, good to be back.
Glad to have you. For this particular video, we're going to be talking about Denza, the BYD high-end sub-brand, which...
Well, not so high-end these days, in the days of Yang Wang, but...
Well, yes, it used to be the highest end, but not anymore. First of all, this is a video we wanted to do prior to the auto show. In fact, we sat down at this very position and said, are you ready to go? And then my videographer pointed out that the Denza N7 was going to be debuting very soon. So whatever we said was going to be irrelevant quickly after we made the video. So
yeah.
we decided to wait just to time
Well,
this
we hadn't
video
seen the interior at that stage. We'd seen the exterior.
We had not seen the exterior. We'd only seen the, or rather, we'd seen the exterior, not the interior, and we didn't know any of the powertrain figures and everything. But now we do. So I think that we can start with that. We're going to talk about the models that are out or about to be out, the ones we expect, and what we kind of expect to see from the Denza brand. So first of all, let's start with the one that is already on sale and one we've already done a video about, which is the Denza D9 MPV. Those of you who saw our video will know that I was very impressed with the D9. Have you had a chance to sit inside of or see a D9?
Yeah, I sat inside actually with you.
That's
in fact,
right.
At BYD Shenzhen's headquarters back in November.
I totally forgot.
And strangely enough, who do we see on the video?
That's right. So
Coincidence or what?
Yes. So as it happens, Mark and I were both in Shenzhen for the launch of the BYD Seal. Well, the one the foreigners got to go to. And so we were given a tour of the BYD headquarters, and part of that was they had some models on the showroom, this floor, and we both sat in the D9. And yes, I did make sure to put the little screen on the inside of the car. I set it up so that it was a video from Wheels Boy's Chinese language channel. Hey, you got to make friends somehow. You know, I'm shameless. So the D9, I was very impressed with. It was the first Denza. Well, you know what?
Not exactly the first Denza, by any means.
That makes me say, let's take a moment. Let me take a step back, actually, and let's talk a bit about the origins of the Denza brand. We'll give the condensed version, well, as best we can, because that will give me an opportunity to ask Mark about his experience driving the original Denza. So Denza started off, of course, as a Mercedes-Benz BYD joint venture brand. Started, I believe the idea came about around 2010. The first vehicle was...
I think they signed the actual joint venture agreement in 2012. And the actual original Denza went on sale around about 2014.
Okay, yeah, 2013, 2014.
The 2013, they showed a concept at the Shanghai show.
The Denza, the first model was called the Denza.
The first was just called the Denza.
Right.
It then became the Denza 400 and the Denza 500 as they extended its range.
And you drove that car?
The Denza, yes. Before it became the Denza 400, yes.
What was that like?
Terrible. One of my cars from my top 10 worst cars I've ever driven.
And that car rode on a stretched Mercedes-Benz B-Class platform,
yes,
right?
So it was essentially stretched, so it was almost about the same length as a Mercedes E-Class.
Mm-hmm. Not a small car, no.
What you had underneath was essentially the drivetrain from the BYD E6, which is a taxi, really.
Yes.
So you're trying to create a more premium type car based on a taxi.
Not a good start.
Not a good start.
Yeah,
So.
and they didn't achieve that.
No.
They didn't achieve that. And now one of the members of our team's phone is going off.
That's right, that's me.
So thanks to him. But they did not manage to achieve a premium vehicle, and I would argue that their next attempt, the Denza X, which we've also driven on the channel, also did not achieve it.
Right.
So the Denza
I haven't driven
X,
that one.
okay, the Denza X I have driven, and for my thoughts on that, you can watch my review. It's a BYD tongue with a very minor facelift and very minor changes to the interior. Lots of styled by Mercedes-Benz badges. It is a chapter.
That was the additional styling, was it, with the badge?
Yes, yes. I mean, literally, the front, both sides, the interior, all have styled by Mercedes-Benz badges.
But I mean, that was their input, just the badge.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Now I see what you mean. Yes, that was Mercedes-Benz's greatest contribution to that vehicle was putting their badge, their name on the badges.
One interesting aspect about that car, though, was with the original Denza, it seemed that Mercedes wanted as little to do with it as possible. But when you got to the Denza X, you did actually get it being shown in their showrooms in China.
Well,
and that seemed to be a major difference.
I'm going to disagree with you because the Denza, I would say that maybe the outward image of the Denza X was not quite so Mercedes-Benz dependent. However, the actual technology was way more Mercedes-Benz dependent, of course, because it was a Mercedes-Benz platform with a BYD powertrain, right? Versus the Denza X, which is a BYD Tong, a restyled interior and exterior BYD Tong, top to bottom.
Right.
That was it. But as you said, that is interesting because they decided they were going to start showing them in Mercedes-Benz dealerships.
Which they didn't with the original one.
Which they didn't. And it's very weird. I mean, literally, you'll walk into a Mercedes-Benz dealership and you will see, well, used to be.
You did, yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
And it would be
they don't
like
sell them anymore.
Mercedes-Benz S-Class, and then right there is a BYD, like a Denza X.
Yeah.
It was a very strange phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it's over now. They've stopped that. Mostly because Mercedes-Benz has taken a backseat and they no longer have a 50-50 ownership in the partner stake in the partnership, but rather a 10% stake.
Yeah, really down.
Really down. And so they are going to, and that brings us to this newest generation of Denzas. The D9, the MPV, we've driven it. It is really genuinely impressive. It is the first Denza. Now, granted, I've only driven one other Denza, but it's based on what you're saying as well. But the first one, it's the first Denza that actually feels like a premium vehicle. Interior, exterior, and more difficult to achieve the driving experience. Not on an air suspension or anything, but it feels very, very comfortable and quite high end.
Air suspension is a good point because that's going to be coming in from what we can work out, at least with the N7.
Yes, and I won't bother giving a huge overview of the D9 again because if you want to know more about that, please check out our video. We can talk now about the N7, which is going to be the newest addition to the Denza lineup, which is currently only one car. Denza dealerships right now are all just a bunch of D9s.
Yeah. N7's going on sale, I believe. Deliveries are beginning this quarter.
Yes, it
So it should be sometime before the end of June.
Yes, Q2 2023.
Yeah.
They're going to start deliveries. So the N7 is their mid-size.
Yeah. It's 4,800 odd millimeters. I think I've got it down on my notes. 4,860 millimeters.
We have a cheat sheet here. Yes, it does say that.
Yeah.
And so it's about the size of as you've written also as well, size of a Neo EC6.
Yes. Yeah.
It is more of a coupe style, kind of wagony.
Yeah.
I think it looks quite good. The proportions are quite nice. The front end styling is.
It doesn't look like a traditional SUV coupe. I mean, it's not like an X4, X6. It's not one of those kind of copycat ones. You've got a distinct styling to it. It has a uniqueness about it.
I would say so. It's maybe not the most beautiful car that I've ever seen, but I do think
It's distinct.
Distinct as a branding exercise, which is not true of every brand these days, and also I think it has some really nice angles, like the profile of it and the rear are my personal favorites.
Well, I also felt that the color they displayed it at the Shanghai Auto Show was a really good color.
The slate gray?
No, the red.
I like the
sort of
deep
red. I liked that. I thought that was good.
Previous guest on the channel, Will from China Driven, did not like the red. He thought that the gray was, and I thought the deep red was beautiful.
Right.
But regardless, that car, I'm going to read my cheat sheet here a little bit. Actually, Mark wrote this, credit where credit is due. This thing's going to be priced between about $50,000 and $65,000 US dollars.
Yeah,
so
350 to 450K RMB.
Correct. And so that definitely puts in a premium segment up against Neo EC6 and cars of that category.
Yeah. It's definitely a Neo competitor.
Absolutely.
I think it's very squarely aimed at that.
Absolutely. So it's going to have I believe it's a 82 point something kilowatt hour battery pack.
I think it was 90. Was that the starting one? Because I read it was like 91 or 92.
Maybe, well, no, I think in our video, because we did a video from the show about it, it was 91, maybe 91 or 92, you're right. Let's go with that. It was around 92 kilowatt hours.
Because, I mean, there's a all-wheel drive version and there's a rear-wheel drive version.
Right.
And we're getting ranges of, I think, 702 kilometers and 630.
Right.
But that's CLTC.
CLTC. So the
So
very optimistic.
very generous.
Very generous. Compared to the other cycles.
Yeah.
Powertrain is the exact same as the BYD Seal, actually. So the single rear motor, 230 kilowatts, about 315 horsepower. And then the dual motor is 390 kilowatts of 530 horsepower.
Yeah.
So performance won't really be an issue with that. What I'm interested to see is that this is going to be the first vehicle with, if I recall correctly, from Denza, with Denza's, it's DSys A.
It's DSys A.
DSys A. So this is...
It should be anyway. At least we believe it's to be DSys A, because they certainly talked about DSys A going in Denza models.
I was told by the Denza people at the stand it was going to be air suspension.
Okay, right. Well, that makes sense, because DSys A is air suspension.
Yes.
We presume that's what the A stands for in the DSys A.
DSys being the latest generation of suspension technology from BYD, which we did a previous video. For more about that, check out our video about Yang Wang. We talked about that brand and about the new DSys system. But air suspension, if the D9's tuning is anything to go by, I think that they could do a really good job with an air suspension.
Yeah, could do. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how that car performs, because I expect it to be quite good. Probably, you know, I'm hoping to be invited to a test drive event. Hopefully before the car goes on sale. I mean, so maybe as early as next month or so.
Yeah, well, the car should be having deliveries by next month, so we are expecting that invitation any moment.
Yes, any moment now. So let's wrap this up.
Well, we should mention the Denza N8 as well.
I was just going to say, let's wrap this up by talking about the N8, which will be the other vehicle that Denza at least has announced that they will be announcing this year. And that is the Denza N7 is a 5-seat vehicle. There's no 3-row version. The N8 is going to be a 6-seater, a hugely popular segment here in China, which we don't know very much about it, apart from the fact that it is based on what?
Well, we believe it's going to be based on the Tang.
Right.
Which is a little bit interesting, actually.
It's interesting, and I have to say, if you told me that before I drove the D9, I would have been terrified. Because I know what a Denza model based on a BYD Tang is like, and it's the Denza X, and it was not good.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we're still on the same generation Tang, so how are they now producing another Denza based on the Tang? So, or maybe it's not right, not correct. Maybe it's really different.
Maybe it isn't based on the Tang. Maybe it's going to be released alongside a new generation Tang.
Yeah, perhaps.
That would be maybe my theory.
Or maybe even previewing a new generation Tang.
Whoa. Exciting stuff. But either way, that will be coming out. I mean, probably later this year, near the end of this year.
I think there's one other thing we need to mention though, and that's sales.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, initially with the Denza, quite honestly, the original Denza I drove, apart from it being terrible, most people agreed with it. I mean, I should actually mention a few reasons why I say it was terrible.
Yes, please.
I mean, as I said, you've got basically the powertrain of a taxi, so the performance was nothing to write home about by any means. But also, I was driving on a really wet and humid day in, I think, July or August, and
this is 2014.
This was probably around about 2016, 2017, a few years after it came out, and I just couldn't get the windscreen wipers to operate properly, just like correct speed, and the mirrors were misting up. I thought it was the windows, but no, the mirrors on the outside were misting up and just couldn't have any rear vision and things. It was like terrible. One good thing about it though, lots of interior space. That's one thing I would say about it. It was a positive side, but just the actual general driving experience wasn't particularly great. And really, they didn't sell very well either. I think they sold generally low thousands a year. Not talking about a month, a year. We're talking, I think, maybe in the first year they sold 1,000 something, and then maybe 2,000 something. Something really, really low figures.
Like barely a pulse for a car company.
Yeah, yeah. Now, though...
Times have changed.
Yeah. Just with the D9, they're hitting how many a month?
Around almost 10,000.
Around about 10,000 a month. And they're targeting 10,000 a month in sales for the N7.
Yep.
Which means, if that is all comes about, we could well hit 200,000 plus this year for the brand.
Yeah, and so we're talking about a nearly 100-fold increase in
Oh,
sales.
yeah. I mean, quite honestly, that's sort of the figures that Neo and Xpeng are achieving.
Yeah.
And this is just on 2 models.
It will be a serious achievement if they
Yeah.
can do that, and so we will only know by around the end of this year. We will find out whether that actually happens. And
Stay
hopefully-
tuned.
Stay tuned, and we will hopefully have a video review of the Denza N7 coming to you soon. Waiting for that invitation.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
BYD.
All of our videos feel like we're subtweeting the car companies to get us to get them to invite us to events, and we are doing that. Thank you, Mark, for discussing this with me. Thanks to you guys for joining us. If you have any questions about the Denza brand, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Any comments of your own about Denza, about what we had to say, any guesses for where the brand is going, we welcome all comers. Either way, thank you very much for watching today's video, and we will see you. Okay, Mark.
One thing.
Hold
Hold the press.
Right before.
There's something that Ethan said to me a few weeks back, which I think actually makes a real amount of sense when it comes to Denza.
That's rare. I don't make sense very often, so I'm glad he stopped me from ending the video.
And Ethan said, the less Mercedes seems to have to do with Denza, the more successful it is.
It's true. That's my conclusion for the D9 video was, this is the car that is easily the best Denza and also the one that had the least to do with Mercedes-Benz. I can't tell you for sure they're connected, but I suspect that they may be. And so it's interesting to see that BYD, the real thing is BYD has a ton of money. BYD has a ton of money and they're throwing at Denza and they're really trying to make a go with the Denza brand. So any last things? Any more?
No, I'll stop it again.
Okay. Well, before Mark can stop me again, thank you for watching today's video. Be sure to tune in for the next one and check out the other ones in our playlist on the main page. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.